Welcome to the Simple Doesn't Mean Easy podcast. We are here every Monday working at simplifying things in our lives one day at a time, one simple step at a time. I'm your host, Michelle Visser. I'm glad you're joining me today. We're talking about something that's a very hot topic in the news today. As I'm recording this, it just happened yesterday. And it's all about something we talk about a lot in here: ingredients in our foods that are literally causing cancer and killing us, and what the FDA has done in response. A lot of people are calling it a ban on food dye. That actually is not what is going on. So, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, what our response should be to all of this today. Before we start, though, I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about the fact I have a friend who's a chef, so I know I've thought about this because of her. Have you ever thought about the fact that chefs can, if they own a restaurant, they can go directly to the food suppliers and order their food in bulk at amazing prices, really good food, or grocery store owners, they can go um, directly to the food suppliers to fill their shelves. But as an average consumer, do we have any option like that? I think most people would say the answer is no. But it turns out I want you to go to soulyrested.com/Azure, Azure. And I want you to find out about the amazing alternative that we have as consumers that is connecting us directly to food suppliers. In 2020, we realized that we couldn't really count on the food system and the model the way it had been set up. It failed a lot of us in a lot of ways, right? Well, long before 2020, a family owned company saw the broken model of food production and they got to work creating a better option. Azure Standard is an independent food supply chain that connects food suppliers directly to the consumers. But on top of that, and this is where it gets really good and it relates directly to our episode today, they hold their products and their suppliers to a very high standard, and they only offer real food with natural ingredients and zero junk. So seriously, go to soulyrested.com/Azure and see what the hype is all about. I have been using this service for many years, and I can't imagine life without it. I also have a really sweet discount code for you waiting there, and it will explain how it works, where your local pickup location is, all the good stuff. Soulyrested.com/Azure. Soulyrested.com/Azure. Also, I don't want you to miss out. There is literally a day or two left of the introductory price for Fresh Flower University. I was so excited when the doors opened the beginning of this month, and it's been so exciting to see all of you coming in and getting so excited about milling your own fresh flour. Guys, there is no ingredient more important in your kitchen than your flour. And if you're buying your flour, it is dead. It has no nutrients. It's not offering you anything good for your body. But if you're going to mill your own flour, you're going to get 40 of the 44 essential nutrients in everything you're making. It is a game changer. And everything you need to know to get off and running, and what you need to know about using fresh flour so it is as close to the commercial flour as you're used to, is in Fresh Flower University. Everything about the wheat berries, everything you want to know about which wheat berries to use for what. Such good stuff. Don't miss out on this introductory price, 70% off. Go to soulyrested.com/flour, Flour. Dive in, take advantage of over $70 worth of bonus offers. And like I said, 70% off. You're going to love, you really are. The people, the responses I'm getting, it warms my heart. It's so exciting. I think in the next few years, every kitchen in the nation can and should have a mill on their counter. That's how much I am invested in this and believe in this. Soulyrested.com/Flour. Start flowering like a rebel, guys. Okay, so Just yesterday, as the time I'm recording this, we heard from two men who have been in the news a lot. Um, the U.S. Health and Human Services Director or Secretary is his title, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the FDA Commissioner, Marty McCary. Both of these guys made statements in front of the press and went on different talk shows too, I believe, talking about what's happening with the FDA and artificial synthetic food dyes. So, first of all, I do want to tell you to go back if you're interested in a lot more information relating to this to episode 131. We talked about the GRAS, the generally recognized as safe ingredients that the FDA has been allowing since the 50s. And I think that episode you'll find very enlightening. And it's just one that's really good to understand. So that's episode 131. And then in episode 151, we specifically talked about the red dye number 3 ban that happened back in January. So episode 131 and 151 both relate to what we're talking about today. After listening to this, you might want to go catch those as well. So I also shared the story in 151 of a popular food brand that had to recall, it's crazy, recall their product due to severe health issues caused by one ingredient that the FDA allows. And we talked about small ways that we can really be vigilant about the food that we're consuming, but not, overdoing it, not getting too obsessed and crazy about it, living our lives as normal, but just being vigilant. So that's episode 151. Okay, so the commissioner of the FDA, Martin McCary, he came out, and I'm just going to read to you what he said yesterday. For the last 50 years, American children have increasingly been living in a toxic soup of synthetic chemicals. Now, there's one ingredient that accounts. Did I just read that? No, I missed a word. I knew that didn't sound right. Now, there's no one ingredient that accounts for the childhood chronic disease epidemic. And let's be honest, taking petroleum-based food dyes out of the food supply is not a silver bullet that's going to instantly make American children healthy, but it is one important step. So these dyes can be found in pretty much everything, but they really are found in almost all candies, children's cereals. They're in so many beverages, and even medicine, which that really has always struck me as so odd to put something carcinogenic in our medicine, but they do it. Companies use the dye to give the food and the drinks a brighter color and make them more appealing. The argument is the kid's going to want to take the medicine if it's a pretty blue color, So here's what Big Food has to say. This is how they responded yesterday. First of all, the Consumer Brands Association, which is a trade association for the makers of consumer packaged goods, aka processed junk food. They said the ingredients in the U.S. food supply have been rigorously studied, following an objective science and risk-based evaluation process that have been demonstrated to be safe. As we increase the use of alternative ingredients, food and beverage companies will not sacrifice science for the safety of our products. So that was Melissa Hookstad, the group's president and CEO. So I'm really glad that she's encouraging us to know that as they move forward and they get rid of the petroleum-based carcinogenic junk and they add in all natural stuff, don't worry, they're not going to let it affect the safety of their products. What is that? She seriously was making it sound like there's some risk at starting to use all natural things. Like, not sure where you're going with that. Then there was the industry group called International Association of Color Manufacturers. Can you believe there is such a group? Well, there is. They pushed back against the characterization that currently used dyes are unsafe. This is what they had to say. Color additives have been rigorously reviewed by global health authorities, such as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the European Food Safety Authority, and the joint FAO WHO expert committee on food additives with no safety concerns, the group said in a statement. Well, just go back and listen to episode 131 for my entire rebuttal of that philosophy, because it really doesn't matter. We have these generally recognized as safe ingredients that aren't even tested and are allowed in our foods. So don't even hand me that line, whoever you are involved with the International Association of Color Manufacturers, because it's not going to float in my book. Before we go any further, though, I want to tell you, I actually am drinking, those on YouTube can see, I'm drinking an iced tea that I just made this blend. This is a homemade blend. And if you can see the color, it's a gorgeous purple, but I can't explain it. On my end, looking through, depending on how the light is falling on my glass, it actually is blue. It's just this really cool purple blue combination because I made it with butterfly pea flowers. They're actual flowers that you can forage for and dry yourself, or I buy mine from Positively Botanicals. Um, and I have more to tell you about them in a second. But it is a medicinal flower, as almost all plants are, guys. They all have polyphenols, such good stuff in them for us. But specifically, butterfly pea flower has been shown to be anti-inflammatory and have antimicrobial effects on our body when we drink things made with it. And it also, this is the really cool thing, why I'm drinking it today, it helps reduce histamine production. So if it is allergy season, it is a wonderful thing for you to be drinking to avoid all those horrible allergy symptoms that creep up on you throughout the day. If you're sipping on a cup of tea, now it doesn't just have the butterfly pea flower. I have a lot of other adaptogens in there and well that are pinpointing certain allergic reactions and helping with it. So you know what? If you go to soulyrested.com/botanicals, BOTANICALS, botanicals, I will put my recipe. I just finalized this morning before I started recording, but I will get that typed up and I will share it for you on that page so you can try out this allergy relief tea. You can also buy allergy relief teas that are organic and wonderful for the same purpose. I'll link to some of those as well on that page. But my point to all of this is to show you my tea is gorgeous. It can have beautiful color and be totally all natural. But on top of that, not only did I not add any carcinogens or pesticides to my drink this morning, I instead added medicinal qualities to what I'm drinking. So much better. We don't have to ever worry that there's going to be a safety issue when they're taking out the petroleum based color and using things like butterfly pea flowers. I was really happy. I think it was RFK that I heard talking about some of the things they're going to be recommending to the big food companies to use instead of the artificial dye. And one of them was butterfly pea flower, which I have loved using for so long now. So right on, RFK. So, I wanted to tell you too, another quick pause for an ad here, that botanicals and adaptogens make great all natural food dyes, like I said, and they make medicinal teas. And I'm going to share more of my favorites later on in this episode, by the way, not just the butterfly pea flower. But botanicals are medicinal, culinary, all natural ingredients from plants. Adaptogens are specific subset of botanicals that are known for their potential to help our body adapt to stress. So I love using both botanicals and adaptogens in so many things that I'm drinking or making. Positively Botanicals sells both of these, and they are top notch, organic. They truly, you won't believe the high quality, but you need to go to soulyrested.com/botanicals to find out my favorites, to find out my recipes of how I use these to make some amazing, delicious teas and drinks, and to get a special code they're offering my listeners to save so you can try some of these for yourself. soulyrested.com/botanicals, BOTANICALS. Doesn't seem like a long word until you go and try and spell it. soulyrested.com/botanicals. Seriously, you're going to love some of the stuff that you find there. So The food dyes that they've eliminated. Let's list some of them and let's go over what's wrong with them. Because, that first quote that I had from, what was his title? It was the Consumer Brands Association. Oh, it was her, sorry, from Melissa Hochstad, the group's president and CEO. Remember, she told us that everything has been shown safe. I mean, we haven't been using anything unsafe, of course. Well, let's talk about that. Let's break down a few of these ingredients and what has been found through studies with these different synthetic food dyes. For decades, research in animals have shown a potential link. I wouldn't even say potential, a definitive link between artificial food dyes, like all of them were banned. That's another thing that I don't think was clear. When I first heard the news and I heard 8 food dyes were banned, I right away wanted to know what ones are they not banning, right? So I looked it up and actually that is all of them. There's officially 9 of them and officially red number 3 was banned in January. So adding on the 8 from yesterday, yesterday, then we are up to the full number of 9 artificial dyes. That's all of them. And like I said, I keep saying the word banned. That's not really correct. We'll get into that. But they're the ones that are being eliminated. And so that is the good news, that it is all of them. So let's break down some of them. Over the past 35 years, an increasing amount of evidence has identified the negative effects. I can't talk, which is a problem when you're trying to record a podcast episode. The negative effects of red dye number 3 connected to cancer in people. So they argue, well, there haven't been really scientific studies done. Well, guess what? If there were really scientific studies done, we would be pumping petroleum-based junk ingredients into kids daily and watching them die of cancer. Like, that's not ethical. So no, those kind of studies haven't been done. But we have seen a connection in people with cancer and food dyes. We definitely have seen the research in rats and in labs. So substantial evidence from animal studies have pointed to the carcinogenic effects of red dye number 3. It disrupts our thyroid hormone regulation. It inhibits the thyroid gland's ability to absorb, iodine. By the way, we've done a couple really good episodes about iodine, why it's important in our diet, but why it does not help to have it in our salt, because our salt has been stripped of the cofactors that we need for our kidney to do its job. So those are really great episodes too. I can't remember those numbers offhand, so I will link those in the show notes. So it also, red dye number 3 also blocks an enzyme that's essential for converting one thyroid hormone to another, which leads to a total dysfunction of our thyroid. All of this, guys, in the name of making a food pretty and enticing that really a kid shouldn't be eating anyway. Along with other impairments. I don't know why I say kid. They've just talked so much about kids the last day in the news, but us too. None of us should be eating it if we can avoid it. Anyway, along with other impairments in the thyroid hormone function, red number 3 increases the risk of thyroid related disorders. I actually have a whole long list more of number 3, but I'm going to move on because that one was already quote unquote banned, right? Officially, it's not going to be out of food until the end of 2027, and it's not going to be out of medicine until 2028. So they have a long time to still allow it to be doing its bad work in our food and medicines. So I'm going to get into a few other dyes and the problems they cause, but I do want to point out that in 1958, there was a Delaney Clause that the Federal Food and Drug Administration wrote up that banned additives that were shown to cause cancer in humans or animals. So there was this clause put into effect in 1958 that should have been protecting us, but we're going to get more into that in a little bit in this episode. So even though that was in existence, and even though they were seeing these problems, it took 35 years, more than 35 years, from the initial findings connecting thyroid cancer to red number 3 in the rodents until there was a ban finally, announced in 2025, not in effect for another couple of years. It's really crazy. Really? 40 years? Almost 40 years when we saw what it was doing to the thyroids of the rats? Come on, guys. Anyway, okay, so other ones, let's see. Yellow number 5, number 6, and red number 40 all contain known carcinogens. Yellow number 6 also has been shown that it may be toxic to some human cells. And just little as 1 milligram of yellow number 5 has been shown to cause severe irritability, restlessness, and sleep disturbances in children who are sensitive to those issues. So I will admit the child has to already have a predisposition to having a problem with that. And it is a very small amount, 1 milligram. But come on, like, really? We don't need the food dye. We just don't need it, except there's money involved. They can sell more if it's in there, so they don't want to take it out, right? Um, some research has also shown connections between all of the different artificial food dyes and restlessness, trouble learning, and attention problems in children who are sensitive to the dyes. So, again, maybe there are children who don't have sensitivities to the dyes who aren't seeing this restlessness and this trouble focusing. But does it really matter? Like, because we know children do have sensitivities to this. So, okay, I told you I had some good news and some bad news, right? Both sides of the story. First of all, the good news. There are, like I said, 9 different synthetic food dyes, and all of them are impacted by this announcement. The previous ban, which didn't enforce anything, like I said, until 2027 and 28 for medicines, it's actually, they're talking about rushing that along because they want to, of course, include that with all the others, right? Like, why keep one in your food and take out all the others? So there is talk that that's also going to be rushed. Another good point that the states, I've loved seeing this happen over the past few months. States have been cracking down and they have been pushing back. And one by one, different states have set laws that the food companies are going to have to listen to. And um, it big food had no desire, I'm sure, when they started seeing that happen. They had no desire to make a certain kind of food for one state and then different variety of that food for other states, right? That would just be too complicated. So big food has already been seeing this happen and realizing they're going to have to respond correctly. And my fourth part of the good news that I have for you is this is what RFK said in an interview this week. We're going to get rid of the dyes, and then one by one, we're going to get rid of every ingredient and additive in the food that we can legally address. So, those are the good sides. But here's the thing. RFK's comment that I just read, that addresses 2 concerns that I've had right up front. He kind of almost says them. First of all, this barely scratches the surface. As good as this is to get rid of the artificial food dye, there's so many other ingredients, so many that we know of. Imagine the ones we don't even know of, possibly, that are really harming us in our processed food. Second of all, he mentioned that legal issue. You see, legally, companies are always going to have can I say it? Proprietary rights to their trade secrets. So they can take whatever ingredients they want and plop them under the title trade secret. I mean, they can't take anything they want. If there are certain things that the FDA has specifically banned, which, by the way, they haven't yet, but if there are, then they can't use those ingredients under trade secrets. But I mean, who knows how they might sneak in those ingredients still? And they definitely can use other things that they do not disclose to us as the consumer. And they can call it's a proprietary right of theirs, which on one hand, I get it. I'm all for, um, entrepreneurial spirits and developing something new. And of course, others shouldn't have the right to that new thing you've invented. But there really has to be a line drawn somewhere when it comes to our health and when it's at stake like it is. The third piece of bad news that I saw in RFK's comment is it's not mandatory. His wording was FDA is requesting that food companies move up the deadline on the ban from the previous 2027 to 28 deadline. And FDA is establishing a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum based food dyes to natural alternatives. Nowhere in there did it talk about a ban, right? He didn't use the word ban. The FDA said it's initiating a process to revoke the authorization of synthetic food colorings. So they're working towards it. They're working towards revoking the ability to use these, but they haven't done it yet. They're simply making a very strong suggestion. Now, my guess is there's a huge assumption going on that I've already alluded to, that big food sees what's happening. They see the moms across the nation rising up and saying, we don't want this anymore. We're not going to buy it anymore. And they realize they got to do something. So the FDA probably feels like they don't have to make it legally banned in order for the food companies to start reacting. So I'm guessing that's part of it. But here's the thing. They do have the authority to outright ban any ingredient that they want to. So it is a little bit of a strange announcement, I thought. Also, if we look at past history of similar things going on, like what's happening now, Big Food has promised to do certain things with certain additives following certain time frames, and they've consistently reneged on their promises. My hope is that the spotlight is too bright and too broad now for them to do that, but I don't know. They have a history of doing that. Also, the whole thing isn't quite as impressive as it sounds when you hear when Martin McCary came out and said, we are eliminating or working towards eliminating 8 synthetic food dyes, because honestly, 2 of them have pretty much been abandoned by the food industry. And those are citrus red 2 and orange B. They're very, very rarely used. So that's just kind of a little side note. I mean, it's good they included them, but they really aren't ones that Big Food is using anymore. So again, I think the intention is good. I just think it's interesting that things weren't done more forcefully. Also, the food industry, I'm guessing, is probably going to take this opportunity to mislead consumers even more about their healthy food choices. I will link another episode, actually. I don't know the number right now, where I had an expert on who actually worked as um, a marketing liaison for Big Food. And he talks about how deceptive and how intertwined all the deception is in Big Food marketing. But so I'll link that in the show notes if you want to know more. But I have a feeling they're going to mislead consumers even more, making them feel that they're making a healthy choice by what's labeled on the package and totally overlooking all the really bad things that are in this food. So you're going to see all natural colors slathered over all kinds of packages. I'm assuming maybe just as soon as months from now, because they're going to want to react to this wave going on of moms saying, yes, no more food dyes, right? So they want to get out there and get ahead of it and get people buying their food because it's labeled all natural colors. So moms are going to be hyper aware of that, and they're going to choose boxes of whatever it is based on those labels, but they might overlook the seed oils, the preservatives, the commercial bleached flour that's used, um, the pesticide laden ingredients, like all of that gets overlooked in the name of, oh, but there's no food dyes, right? Also, I'm kind of worried what they might add. Maybe even it'll be a generally recognized as safe ingredient, or maybe it will go under their trademark secret ingredients. But what they might add to mask the slight taste of things like beetroot and turmeric. Like, they're really great natural food dyes, but they might taste a little grassy or just give it a little bit more of a bitter flavor. So, how much more sugar are they going to add? And I guarantee you it's going to be refined, bleached, cheap sugar, right? It's not going to be honey and maple syrup and the good stuff that has the polyphenols. It's going to be the bad sugar. And how much more of it are they going to add because of these natural colors that might give something a slightly different taste. Okay, so my final hesitant bad news thought for the day is that Delaney cause that I mentioned. The purpose of it back in 1958 was to protect the public from potentially harmful chemicals being added to our food supply. It applied to food additives and anything that was used to alter the property of the food. So, to alter the texture, the flavor, the preservation. One recent episode, we talked about how duck feathers and human hair are added to commercial breads to impact the texture of the bread. Crazy, crazy, but true and allowed. I guess I should link that episode too, huh? God, I'm glad I found a working pen so I can jot this all down. Okay, duck feathers. I will link that episode. Okay. So the Delaney Clause has zero tolerance. In other words, if a food additive was found to cause cancer in humans or animals, they made that very clear, or animals, it couldn't be approved to be used in food. So the FDA is responsible for implementing and enforcing this clause, which is something we talked about back in our generally recognized as safe episode, that the FDA is the one regulating it all. So that can be a really big problem. But the Delaney Clause has been criticized for decades now for being both sides of the story, actually, being overly restrictive because it doesn't account for like the possibility of trace amounts of carcinogens not actually being harmful per se. And some argue that it could lead to banning certain substances that actually pose no risk. So obviously, that's big food that's arguing all of those criticisms. But on top of all of that, advancements since the 50s have allowed us to analyze the chemistry and the toxicology of all these minute ingredients. And they've really made it possible for us to detect and measure extremely small amounts of chemicals. And that raises questions about, well, how can we really apply the Delaney Clause? Because everything has a minute trace, tiny particle of something. I mean, we talked in a recent episode about the fact that real food has lead and how some people go crazy over the fact that, oh, my lead count's going to be too high if I'm eating too many raw vegetables or whatever the case. So, I mean, it's true that every food we eat, even the really good stuff, is going to have trace elements of things that we could be alarmed about if we let ourselves really go willy nilly crazy over this idea. So, people on the big food side of this argument argue that the Delaney Clause is outdated and we can't really follow this because it's just, we know much more than they did back then when they made this clause. So obviously, the clause has been fought against and not recognized correctly for a very long time. So it can be pretty discouraging the deeper you go into all of this history and the more you realize how big food has literally their claws into the FDA. They just do. That's just the way it works. So I want to end all of this on a very happy note, though. I wanted to be responsible in bringing you all my thoughts because I see a lot of people out there on Instagram the past 24 hours, like so excited, so happy about this. And don't get me wrong, it is good. I'll take any little bit of good I can get when it comes to improving our food. Absolutely. But I think we just need to keep in mind all this other stuff too. And we need to be diligent about what we're eating. We just do. We can't let ourselves go crazy over it, but we need to be a little more conscious sometimes about things that we tend to overlook. So here are my suggestions. First of all, be encouraged. Absolutely. This is better than nothing. And it's exciting to see the FDA taking this turn in this direction under the leadership of Martin McCary. So be encouraged. Second of all, know the natural alternatives to food dye and keep them handy. There are dyes you can actually buy that are all natural organic dyes that are made with some of these things I'm going to list, or you can just make them yourself. Use the actual botanicals yourself. So I'm going to tell you some of my favorites, and all of these are listed at soulyrested.com/botanicals. I link to them. I give you a code to save money if you want to stock up on some of them. If you want a really pretty blue color that magically will turn purple in the face of an acidic ingredient, then you want that butterfly pea flower that I was talking about. To make my tea that I have today, I use the actual dried butterfly pea flowers to soak in hot water. And then I added my maple syrup and my ice to make my iced tea. But you can use butterfly pea powder in any drink that you want to get the cool color and the medicinal effects. If you want, and it doesn't have to be a drink, it can be your icing, your cupcake batter, anything that you want to add color to. It's a really pretty option. It's fun. It's fun for kids to try acidic versus non-acidic ingredients they're adding with it. Like if you add lemon juice, it's going to turn purple. So it's fun for kids to watch the difference with the blue and the purple. That's the butterfly pea flower. If you want a pink all the way up to red color, then you want to try beetroot powder. And if you want a blue-green color, it's a really cool color. Spirulina is a great option. For green, I always use matcha. Love it. I also use it just to make drinks. If you want to only use it as food dye, you can get the culinary option, which is a little cheaper, or you can get the ceremonial matcha and make delicious drinks with it as well. If you want an orange color, go for turmeric. And if you want brown, camu is a great botanical for that. So, just be committed to choosing better when you can. If you have different food options, just go for the better option when you can. And know that big food is only in this for money. That's always the case, always will be the case. So if they do give you a healthy option, just be aware that maybe you should look a little bit closer. It might not be as healthy as the big words they're blaring across the top of the package is telling you. And recognize the marketing ploys for what they are. Just start noticing them. And more importantly than any of the above, to end this on an encouraging note, I want to tell you it's important to find joy in small changes, just small, tiny changes, one at a time in our diets, in our pantry, on our family table. Just take it one small step at a time. And if worrying too much about natural food dyes doesn't fit into your plan right now, then just make homemade options that don't have any food dye. We don't need the color. Sure, it's fun, but we don't need it, right? So don't even worry about it. Put it off your radar if it's not something that you want on your radar right now. But decide what's important to you and your family. Just the next thing, just one next thing, and work on that. And find joy in it. It's really hard to find joy if you decide to take on 28 different ingredients and change them in your pantry. So don't do it. Take the option that can give you some joy, and real food becomes fun for you, for your kids, for your family. And I hope this all encouraged you in the end. I hope I wasn't too much of a Debbie Downer, because good things are happening. Changes are happening. If nothing else, the general population, just because of the announcements yesterday, some people for the very first time have started to realize, wait a minute. So the boxes of food I buy on my grocery store shelf might not be very good for me. Like, that's a huge win that people are starting to realize that. So let's get excited about that. And thanks for listening, friends. Remember, it's easy to forget how blessed we are to live this life. So enjoy the simple everyday efforts. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it.